so let's take a quick look. We're about 200 billion in market cap currently. At the beginning of the year, when everybody is really hyped about it, it's about 800 billion. And I think a lot of people were very concerned, at least in the traditional financial world, that it would break $1 trillion. Because when it breaks $1 trillion, that means basically you're hitting a marker that is, there's a lot to do with that. I'll just leave it at that. So many different coins and tokens. I'm not going to go through all of them that have their own blockchains, etc. We'll take a few of the most popular. So Bitcoin obviously started everything, right? This is primarily a store of value. It is the first blockchain that was very successful. At any rate, there was actually something before. There's some kind of but it wasn't. Bitcoin really brought it all together. Okay? And transactions are not very fast and sent to anyone, anywhere. A lot of people call this, you see on the previous slide, digital gold, right? So a lot of people who are investing in these actually buy Bitcoin because they say, well, this is the currency. Now, the interesting thing about it is that nobody actually knows who created Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto, right? Nobody knows who that is. A lot of people claim to be this person, but they don't know. And so that's interesting. So if you're going to put your money there, whatever it is, you might want to keep in mind that nobody knows. Some people think it's the U.S. government. It was their experiment. We don't know. Some people think it's some group of, I guess cypherpunks, whatever. Nobody really knows, right? So we got no clue who this was. And this was the original blockchain. Keep that in mind. Okay? Ethereum, used as a platform for distributed applications to smart contracts. I think you talked about that earlier. Smart contracts means that I can do transactions with somebody in South Africa, I can do transactions with somebody in Taiwan, I can do transactions with somebody in Mexico, and the contract or the code will actually validate that they are sending the exact value that I expect, and I'm receiving what I expect to receive, right? So it almost eliminates the ability for corruption in that process. Usually I could send something to you, and maybe you send me nothing back, and I'm out of luck. But the smart contract says, I will not execute and send to you unless this is already done. And the code makes sure that happens. Okay? This coin has the second highest market cap and is used for ICOs. So usually if you're going to invest in an ICO, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be with this Ethereum. And I'll tell you, I hadn't heard of Ethereum until earlier this year or late last year. I think I started investing in traditional mutual funds that invest in cryptocurrencies last year. Right? So I'd heard of Ethereum, it just started to come up, but this wasn't really well known 2 years ago. But now it's the second highest market cap of these. Ripple. So for those of you who are the mainstream of the mainstream, Ripple is set to basically take over. It's started by a company. They are one of the most regulatory friendly projects in the blockchain. Okay? And they use for cheaper, faster cross-border payments for the SWIFT network. Anybody know SWIFT banking network? Right? That's how all your cross-border, it takes like 3, 4, 5 days. I've done a lot of transactions on SWIFT. And it has like 18 intermediaries in it. Okay? Each one who gets paid something in the transaction. Ripple, almost instantaneous, almost no intermediaries. Now, by the way, this, as I said, was started by a company, okay? A company the U.S. government loves, right? I think they actually view it as a response to Bitcoin because China's doing almost all the Bitcoin mining, or a lot of it, okay? So they view this as almost a response, like maybe this is America's, we'll stick with this one, right? But banks are taking this in a huge way. I don't want to say hugely, in a huge way, right? So they're taking this up in a huge way. Bitcoin Cash. This is meant to be a cash alternative. I think it's going to fork. By the way, if you heard the term fork, it means they're basically taking the code and making it into 2 separate blockchains. Okay? So this one's about to fork. I forget what the other blockchain is called. And that can be used to buy or sell things, like cash is the idea. It's claimed that Bitcoin Cash is faster than Bitcoin. I will tell you this, at least I'm what we call a hodler, okay? Hodl means hold on for dear life, okay? So I'm buying my different cryptocurrencies that I buy, different blockchains that I believe in, and I buy it based on the fact that I understand the technology, I understand the underlying thing. Now, the reason that I do this, and I mention this, is because a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to pay for this, pay for this. Well, I want to submit something to you. Back in 2008, when Bitcoin came out, the Bitcoin was worth, you got 10,000 for one pizza, okay? That was the first transaction, as far as I know. One pizza was about like 10,000 Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin has been hovering someplace around $6,000 for the last several months. So think about that. Your one Bitcoin back then was like 0.000000001 of a cent. Today, it is $6,000. Do you know how much of a jump that is? I mean, you're a multiple billionaire if you actually held on to those coins, which many people did, by the way. Okay? Now, if you're like, oh, use it to buy coffee, use it to buy a sandwich. If you're like, you know what, this could happen again, which it could happen again, right? It could jump like that again. Would you go and buy a sandwich with your Bitcoin or your Bitcoin Cash? I leave it for you to consider. Monero. Monero is one of several privacy coins that are designed to be untraceable. Governments and law enforcement don't like this type of coin. Okay, so you have Monero, you have Zcash, I think Zero. They hate these because these really are supposed to be like the U.S. dollar, right? I can give you a bag of them, and nobody's supposed to know who it was or where it was. So obviously, there's concern about crime associated with these. Most currencies actually are not like this, though. You can trace them fairly easily. I just bring this one out because it's one of the best known privacy coins. Okay, so there are